Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of the Detroit versus the NFL YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be doing some off-season content. The season's over, so there isn't a ton to talk about football-wise on the podcast. So I'm going to be putting some more off-season content onto my YouTube channel. Most of you are probably coming from the podcast. However, if you discovered this channel on YouTube, make sure to go on to Spotify or to Apple Podcasts and check out Detroit versus the NFL. Make sure to check out the podcast. That's where my main football content will be. However, with the off-season approaching, I'm balancing out my podcast material and my YouTube material. And so I thought I'd do something with YouTube this weekend instead of a podcast episode, considering there isn't much to talk about. So, up on the docket for today, I have the Detroit Lions 2023 to 2024 season recap. Should be a fun, entertaining video. I'll be going through highlights explaining the Detroit Lions season again, because despite the NFL being over, it's still fun to look back on stuff. So hopefully you guys enjoy this video. With that, all that being said, let's jump right into it. Alright, starting off week 1, Lions versus the Chiefs. First up, this was a huge game for Detroit. We see Brian Branch, the rookie, come up with a huge pick six. This game really just proved to the league that the Lions are going to be huge contenders walking into the rest of the season. Next up, we've got losing in overtime against Seattle. This was a game I saw in person. My first in-person loss that I've seen in Detroit out of all the games I've been to. Definitely a tough one and one that I wasn't expecting. Then we've got the Lions bouncing back to get a huge win over Atlanta. Aiden Hutchinson coming up huge. And as you'll see here, he had a giant sack against Ritter. And then this play right here just to seal it. Able to knock the ball out, recover it, and just seal the play for Detroit. And, really just to be able to bounce back against that loss against Seattle and moving forward. Then moving up, we've got Week 4 Thursday Night Football against the Packers. This was a huge win for Detroit, their first division game of the year. They get a huge win. Then moving on to Carolina, we've got some trickery heading up into this offense. Ben Johnson throws out an old flea flicker to Sam Laporta, and the Lions get 3 back-to-back blowout wins in a row. Then moving on to Tampa Bay, the Lions looking to get win number 4. Who does Goff go to? His deep man, Jameson Williams. Took a minute to find the ball, but he does find the ball. And, Detroit stacks 4 big blowout wins. Next up, we've got Week 7. A very, very tough loss to the Ravens. This is just, a clip of bloodshed that the Ravens did on the Lions. Coming off that loss, we go into Week 8 Monday Night Football against the Raiders. Jahmyr Gibbs has a breakout game. Here's the one touchdown that he had. Overall, another nice win that the Lions got to bounce back from that tough Ravens loss. Moving on to midpoint. Against the Chargers, this is where things start to get rocky for Detroit. We do see David Montgomery get a nice touchdown here, but this is where Detroit starts, having close games against opponents they really should have blown out. This is where Detroit enters that rough patch. We see here, I was in person for this one. We barely beat the Bears. That game, practically gave me a heart attack. Was good to see them come out with the win, though. However, entering this next week, we would see Detroit's luck run out against the Packers on Thanksgiving Day. Here's just, one touchdown that they had. The scoreboard may not reflect it, but they had our number pretty good during that game. So, Detroit's luck ran out there. However, we do rebound against the Saints in Week 13. However, as you can see by the scoreboard, it was close until the very end. So this is again Detroit, keeping it close against teams that they really should have blown out. So this is where some fans start to lose hope. And then this game right here was where a lot of fans jump ship. This game against the Bears where we really just got walked all over. I stayed on the ship, I believed. And sure enough, Week 15 against the Broncos, we get a ginormous, win 42-17. Enough confidence to reinsure in the fan base. Then, division title on the line. The Lions get a win to clinch the division, which means a playoff spot. And they picked off Nick Mullins 4 times. Overall, one of the best games that I've watched on TV.
Play action.
We've seen this one before, right? We all were jumping up and down. Oh boy, what do we got here? You don't say, huh?
What else could it be?
Yeah, I definitely think he didn't report eligible. Anyway, moving on from that ref bullshit. Moving on to Week 18, we find Jared Goff finding a wide open Amon-Ra St. Brown for a touchdown against the Vikings. This was just putting finishing touches on the end of the final season finale before moving into the postseason. Then the Lions taking on the Los Angeles Rams. This was a game that Detroit, was personal. Matthew Stafford coming back, but Detroit was able to get it done, get their first playoff win at home, and their first one since 1991. It really came down to the effectiveness of the offense, as we'll see here in a second. They were really able to, keep us in the game when the defense was struggling early on, but then this was the play right here. One of their key touchdowns, Goff to Sam Laporta, who became a reliable tight end throughout the season. Then they go to the divisional round, and, they have the lead. Right as Baker Mayfield tries to lead a comeback, he's picked off by Derek Barnes, and that right there will send the Detroit Lions to the NFC Championship. So Detroit has 2 playoff wins at home, moving on to the NFC Championship against San Francisco on the road. Here we do see the Lions then take on the San Francisco 49ers. A 24-7 lead at the half would not be enough to put the 49ers away. And, that's going to end the Lions season right there. Definitely a tough way to go out, but I talked about it on the podcast, so I won't get too deep into it here. But just a tough way for Detroit to go out in that season. Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed that video. Sure made me, have some nostalgia, remembering all the way back to September and October, Detroit's massive success of a season. Hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications if you did enjoy, and make sure to check out the podcast if you haven't already. With all that, hope you enjoyed, and I will see you again sometime soon. But remember, it's not just Detroit versus whoever they're playing, it's Detroit versus the NFL.